Hello, I'm Rhian Evans. Thank you very much for joining me in another episode of Women in Sport. This week I'm delighted to be joined by Sally Green, Maya Helfrich and Helen Helfrich to look at cricket on the island.
I don't like cricket. Oh no. I love it.
Well, I started playing cricket because my father really, we grew up at the cricket club in the summer, watching him play and playing on the boundary, and then it was just natural to start playing myself with my brothers. My brothers are only a year and 2 years younger than me, so I played alongside them, and that's how I got started really. And the cricket club in the summer was kind of part of my life really, and I missed it when the winter started. Not that I didn't play other sports, but yeah, that was how I started really. Yeah.
And this was across, wasn't it?
This was in England, yeah. So this was in Derbyshire.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of teams did you play for in Derbyshire?
So a number of different village teams. We started at West Hallam and I played for Hotbrook and Denby and Swanwick. But I was lucky enough to play for Derbyshire and Loughborough University, British universities, and trialled and trained with England under 17s and England under 19s.
You say it so casually.
But only because it feels such a long time ago now. I was 17 and 19 and I'm not that now, so it was a while ago.
Brilliant. In your time playing cricket, how much have you seen the game change for women?
It's changed vastly. I mean, there's now, I think it was 7 professional women's teams, and when 7 countries that have got full-time professional women's teams, which when I played, it's just something that you couldn't have imagined happening really. We were travelling all around, this was when I was playing for Derbyshire, travelling all around the country from Scotland one day to Cornwall the next day, and travelling 300-400 miles to get to a game, playing alongside England internationals, and it was hard for them at that point because it was a challenge to earn a living and be a professional cricketer. But now we've got lots of countries that have got professional females, and the game is the standards improved vastly. So,
speaking of professional females, because I know I always reference back to netball just because it's the easiest way to do it, but England netballers now finally are getting paid enough so that they don't have to work as well as play professionally. Is that happening in cricket as well?
That's the case in cricket as well. So let's say 7 countries have got full-time professionals. The English players, they used to be paid through Chance to Shine, which is a programme that's run in England, and coach as part of their contract. I think that's not even the case now. I think a lot still do, coach within schools to promote the women's game, but I think they're full-time professionals, which is great.
Okay, Maya, let's move to you. So, how long have you been playing cricket for, and what was it that made you want to start playing?
So I've been playing cricket for 7 years, and I wanted to start because my dad and my grandpa are quite obsessive about it, and I just wanted to see what they liked. So my dad just brought me outside and kind of told me how to bat and stuff, and then I just went and started a cricket club, and then I just kind of fell in love with it.
Were there many other girls at the cricket club that you started?
Not really. I think I was the only one, and then I asked some of my friends to come, and 3 of them probably came.
That's brilliant. So you actually managed to get other girls to go along with you. It wasn't like people thought it was a bit odd or anything. Yeah. Going back to, let's talk about watching professional cricket. Do you watch much women's cricket on the telly? Is it easily accessible?
Yeah, it's always on. It's always, yeah. And a lot of the time I go overseas to watch cricket because it's a bit more fun.
That's brilliant, because on some of the other episodes with other sports, it's quite difficult because obviously you need exposure to sort of get women's sport to move towards the same level as men's, but it's difficult to do that when it's not on the general television channels that are easily accessible. So you're saying that it is on TV quite a lot. That's a really, really good thing. Do you watch a lot of it, Sally, I'm assuming?
Probably not as much as the Helfrich household, but we still watch a huge amount. And yes, it's on Sky, but Sky cover men and women's cricket equally now. I feel it's on whatever competitions are on. They tend to cover it in equal measure. Obviously, you need Sky, but it's on a lot. And I watched it. I was lucky enough to watch one of the KSL Super League games, and that was live, which was great because I'd always wanted to watch one as I've seen them on Sky. But yeah, it was a really, really high standard.
The skipper, she's brought herself on first ball, first wicket of the day.
In terms of coverage and pay, what's the balance like with men's cricket and women's cricket?
I think the men are still paid more. I'm not sure how much, but I think the women are paid well enough to get along. It's a difficult debate, isn't it? Because the men are attracting millions of people watching them around the world. Women not so many, but it's a slightly different game. But it's getting there, isn't it? And I don't know the exact figures, but it's not the same as the men. But I think they're still doing pretty well.
It does sound like women's cricket is doing kind of better in terms of exposure in comparison to other women's sports. Do you see it getting to the same level as men's cricket in the future?
I do really, yeah. With the new 100, which has been launched alongside the men's 100, it's the same launch. It seems to be on par. The Big Bash is launched alongside the women and the men. They tend to play in the same venue, so the women will play first and the men play second. So I think it's getting there, yeah, I think so.
What do you think cricket is doing right that other sports might be struggling with? See, women's rugby was one of the examples where the women I was speaking to, they were like, I just don't see the women's game being on the same level as the men's anytime soon. Just can't picture it. So what would you say cricket has done right?
In terms of ICC, the ICC funding has increased for the women's game, so it's now 22% of the funding is based on women's game, and that's increasing, and that's going to increase, I think. So they've not forced a hand, but they've encouraged countries to really promote it, and I think it's well promoted, and there's no bias between the two. So I think I just think being well backed, I think, and now I think boys are playing alongside girls, and I don't think this is unusual as it used to be. I mean, when I started 25 years ago, I was the odd one out, and only because my brothers played that I think I was quite accepted. I think now I don't think the boys see it any different. It's a girl playing, it's a boy playing. It doesn't make any difference to them. It's just a cricketer, and then from then you go off into your different pathways. But I think it's well promoted, and it's being encouraged in primary and secondary school, so it's great.
We have found that in terms of sport in general, training, like athletics, there's no proper divide with girls and boys. You know, the big comps, there's coverage over all events because they're all happening at the same time, which seems to be a really good way forward. But also training together, you know, the boys and girls train together. How do you find that, Maya? Do you find that the boys can be a little bit, oh, I don't want to play with her because she's a girl, or is there none of that?
Sometimes there can be a bit of, oh, I'm going to go a bit softer on her, and I do find that a bit annoying.
And how do you react to that?
I just kind of show a bit that I can play.
The basketball girls said this as well. They said the boys sort of just assumed the girls they would have to sort of not play as hard against the girls, and they said exactly the same as you. They just were like, no, we're just going to show you that you play the same game against us. So do you find that boys are going harder on you now, or are they still going a bit soft?
I think since I've started, they've gone a lot harder because I'm kind of been in the same kind of group. So I think they are more like harder on me now.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Good. Let's talk about how many years did you say you've been playing? 7?
7, yeah.
7 years. What would you say is your highlight of your cricketing career so far?
I mean, my dad likes when I bat, but I don't think I'm a batter at all.
Where do you like to play the best?
Bowling.
Bowling?
Yeah.
Sally, any career highlights?
A few, like I say, trialling and training with England was a real highlight, and playing alongside the likes of Charlotte Edwards and Jane Smith, who had tremendous England careers and tremendous people as well. Coaching wise, I had a very successful under-13 side that were very close to being national champions, and 4 of the players have now gone on to play in England squads and everything. So yeah, lots of highlights really, but just how much I enjoyed the game, and you just think back fondly, and just spending the evening at the cricket club is a highlight because it was always good fun, and you never didn't want to be there. So that's also a highlight in a different way, isn't it? So,
what do you want to see for players like Maya and the future of women's cricket on the Isle of Man?
Well, I think we've started it already really, but I want to see a pathway for all, not just for Maya, but for all the different range of females that have started to play the game. So recreational players who continue to play in the women's festivals, but then for Maya, a pathway. So we now started a girls development squad, which has got 16 players up to the age of under 15. Maya's retained her place in the boys squad for a further challenge with another 2 players that are in the boys squads. Could be 3, possibly 2. Then to have a women's squad that then competes on the world stage and takes part in the World Cup qualifiers like the national team do, and having an under-19 squad that competes in World Cup qualifiers, that will be the future. But we've started. We're started on that pathway.
How far away do you think you are from achieving that?
Well, as I say, we started this year with the girls development squad who will start training after Christmas. I would say within the next 5 years, I'd hope to have a women's national team and hopefully an under-17 team that can compete in the under-19 World Cup qualifiers.
Awesome. And we chatted a few months ago before the summer, and you had a lot of cricket festivals over the summer to increase numbers and sort of get the word out there. Have you seen a boost in numbers since
We've had a
last
huge
we
boost.
spoke?
We've had over 110 new participants.
Amazing.
Helen was one of them. And the festivals went brilliantly. They were great fun. We had great weather and lots of games played, and smiles on the faces, and the standard improved from each festival. The first festival where we only had 2 teams to Finchia where we had 6 teams, and then we generally had 4 or 5 teams each festival. And yeah, it was great. Was
it a range of different ages?
Yeah, it was an interesting choice really, because the festivals that run, softball festivals that are in England, are for I think at least 14 and up. We decided to go for any female because I also thought it was nice to play with your daughter, mums and daughters playing together, but having young players and senior players, and just having that mix, I thought enhanced the festival really. Because if a 7-year-old came out to bat, they'd slow it down a little bit and might bowl underarm, and then someone that came in who played a bit more regularly like Maya, they'd be trying to bowl as fast as they can because they knew that Maya trained regularly and they wanted to get her out. And it was just great fun, yeah. So we had anyone, any age, it didn't matter. It was a huge range of ages.
I think that's a perfect way to get people into sport, because I only really started playing netball outside of school because my mum took me to Ballasalla Netball Club, and there were, I think, 3 other mums and daughters playing there, and we just played together on a team for years, and it was a lovely way to just have the different abilities and ages, and yet be so connected with one another and adapting your skills and the way you play to different people. I think it's really, really good. In terms of the most nervous you've ever been before a game, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I don't, as a player, I was very rarely that nervous because I always felt in control, especially if I was bowling. If I'd done hours and hours of practice, I always felt in control, and if I trusted my teammates, which I generally did, then I thought, well, if that player is able to hit me if I bowl my best ball, then fair play to them. But I was often nervous coaching, not nervous of my ability to coach, but sometimes watching my players go out to bat, it was making me nervous, and I wasn't even playing. Some of them got themselves so worked up before they had to go out to bat, depending on the game situation. That made me nervous just looking at them. But then, as a coach, that's difficult to control your players' nerves. That's probably the hardest thing as a coach. You can say you can do it, and you know that they can do it, but then believing that they can do it, that's difficult, and that made me nervous.
I guess it's like you have that whole side of emotional coaching, the psychological aspect that comes with any sport.
Absolutely. They wouldn't have been there if I didn't think that they could do it, but they think that they could do it. That was the challenge, yeah. And then they make the rest of the team really nervous, so then you've got another
Domino
6 people really nervous, and you're like, well, we're going to win this game, but yeah, that was when I was most nervous, yeah, watching them be nervous.
Maya?
Sometimes I'm quite nervous about batting because I just don't really feel like I can do it, but I think I know I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, nerves are good, aren't they? So long as you can control you and not let them overwhelm you, because some people get so nervous that they're sick and then it completely throws them off the game. So I think nerves are good, so because they show that you're ready, so long as you can sort of compartmentalise them. Do you have any superstitions? So if you've had a really, really good game and you wore like a certain pair of socks, do you have to wear those socks in the next game?
I sometimes feel like I believe I do, but I don't think I do.
Sally?
No, not really. I think you do tend to put your pads on a
In
certain way
yeah.
without consciously thinking about it. And I know some players do arrange their bag in a certain way, and so not consciously, but I think I probably did. I often got ready in the same way because I was always batting in a similar place in the order. So if a few wickets went down, I'd go and put my pads on, and it tend to. I have a way of doing it, but but I probably wouldn't have voiced it then, as it being a superstition as such.
Is there a certain stigma around women's cricket that is really annoying? So when I asked that question to girls football, they said, Taylor's oldest time is that you have to be like a butch lesbian to play football or to play rugby. But I didn't know if there was one about cricket.
I think probably when I first started, I'd probably say not so now. I think there's a huge range.
What was it when you first started?
Probably a similar thought, yeah. And it didn't bother me because I just played, and I came into the women's game having played men's and boys cricket. I didn't until I was 15. I didn't realise there was women's cricket. I played at my village club, and I didn't know anything about it. So when I went in without knowing, and that probably was similar then, but I don't think so now.
Maya, is there a sort of stereotype you're aware of at the moment, or is it fairly chilled now?
I think it's just kind of in the middle, nothing really.
In terms of games, have you ever had any really sort of dramatic moments? I mean, I know you wear helmets when you're batting, but have you ever got... Because those cricket balls are hard, has one ever left you severely bruised?
Kind of happens to me a lot, because, I mean... I usually get nervous that I'm going to get hit, but then when I get hit, it's not actually as bad as most people think. Mm-hmm. I probably have a lot of bruises from it.
Cricket is a game where you get bruised a lot of bruises over my... I'm a person that, well, if you ask my old coaches, I did get hit a lot, yeah. But I practiced with my brother, who is 6'4" and quite strong and bowled quite quick, and he did like to try and hit me. So it did improve my game, but it hit me in the head. I probably lost count of numerous times. Yeah, hit me in the side of the head quite a lot. I've been hit in the throat. Not by him. That was at an England trial. Yeah, I should have hit it. I missed it. I took my eye off the ball. Yeah, that was worse than the head. The head actually being hit in the head, unless I've never faced 100-mile-an-hour bowling, but being in the head is not as bad as being hit in some other parts of the body. Your inner thigh hurts more than the head. Yeah. The head, if it just skims the side of your head, it just wakes you up, really. But yeah.
I think that was one good thing though about the women's festivals. The fact that it was the softball meant that all ages, all abilities could play quite happily and not feel nervous about being hit.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And how is cricket in schools? Because I know when I was in school it was rounders, and I didn't know if that was sort of like an irritating competition to have, because as far as I'm aware there's no, like, you don't play rounders professionally. So because there is a goal for women's cricket, is it annoying that cricket has to compete against rounders?
It is. That's something we've been working on, and the secondary schools have been very supportive, and I've coached in 4 secondary schools over the summer that's just gone. We'll be looking into have to go into all of them this time, and to set up some fixtures and some festivals to get it started. The girls can play alongside the boys in the boys' fixtures, and there's nothing to say that they can't. But obviously the schools want their best players to play in the rounders fixtures, who you would say will be cricket players as well because of hand-eye coordination. So we have had a player this year who's played rounders rather than cricket, even though she's in our Ironman pathway. So it is frustrating, but I think we're starting to break it down, because they will still continue to have rounders in the curriculum on Ironman, but we're starting to have cricket alongside it, and I think that's probably the way forward, really.
In terms of cricket crowds, do you have strawberries and cream when watching a cricket match? Is that like a cliched stereotype, or does it actually happen?
I don't think I've ever had strawberries and cream.
I think Lord's is a bit more traditional, isn't it?
I think so.
But if you go to something like a 2020 match, it's definitely not that. It's sort of burgers, chips, and lots of pop music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay, because sort of cricket's always, in my head, been this very sort of well-to-do sport, and it's all very, it's basically as far away from a football match than you could imagine.
Yeah, T20 games are similar to a football match, I would imagine, in terms of the crowd. I mean, if you're playing in a cricket game and the softball festivals have a cricket tea in the middle, which are generally fantastic, aren't they, Helen?
Absolutely.
They were absolutely
A big selling
fantastic
point.
over the summer. I think people were trying to compete against each other to do the best tea, so each tea was better each week. But by the time you got to play after the tea, I couldn't run.
When you say a cricket tea, what does that involve?
It was a mixture, really, wasn't it? But it tends to be like sort of sandwiches and cakes and fruit and things. They were
Very sort of
spectacular,
British.
much better than the club teas.
I know we talked about bruises, but have you ever had any big injuries?
I don't think I have. I get a lot of injuries, just big injuries in general. But I don't think
Just
I've really
day-to-day.
had much.
You
To
might
do
not
with-
remember, but when you first started playing cricket, actually you had a broken arm at the time. So her first match was played with a broken arm. Not
But it
as
wasn't
a
to
result
do
of
with
cricket.
Wow.
cricket, though.
And broken finger this year.
Yeah, I break a lot of stuff.
As if you started cricket with a broken arm. That's impressive.
I broke my ankle, quite
did
a
you do
bad
that?
one. Well, I still dream about it now. I was running into bowl, and those people that are bowlers, as I jumped and gathered, and you land on your left foot and then go to put your right foot down, I landed on my left foot on the side of my left foot. So, and yeah, just crumpled in a heap. But my ankle went like 4 times the size instantly. And then I fainted, so I can't remember much else after that. I could remember the next bowler screaming, and really loudly. And I was like, why is she screaming? And then looked, I thought,
It's like a scene from a horror film.
it was awful, yeah, and that was incredibly painful. Yeah, that's up until that point, I would have said none, nothing major. I've not really broken any fingers, which most cricketers do. They end up breaking a finger at some point.
Is that like the sort of
That's-
go-to?
That's a traditional cricket injury, yeah.
traditional
Miss
one.
time a catch, miss pick up the ball, you can break your finger, but a broken finger, you see them on telly where they'll pop them back in themselves.
Oh,
Yeah, our coach who does the cricket development officer on the Isle of Man, yeah, he's put a few fingers back in before, yeah.
Lovely.
Not mine.
Hopefully that never happens to you, Maya.
me too.
What's the main thing that you've seen change in the women's game? So again, talking about netball, the difference from how people knew it being a static, slow, non-contact sport, it's now very fast and very contested and quite rough, really. So what differences have you seen in women's cricket over your time?
The approach to the game, so obviously more professional, dedicating more time to the game. The speed of the game is increasing. Women are now getting stronger and hitting the ball further, because it did used to be known as more of a running game, so hitting gaps and tactical, but now starting to hit 4s and 6s. Not as far as the men, obviously, some of them hitting it over 100 metres, but hitting 6s and 4s regularly. I hope to see, because it looked like it was going to, and it seems to have gone backwards a little bit, but to see the speed of bowling increase again. So look to be pushing 80 mile an hour bowlers from females would be great to see, but we're moving in that direction.
Let's talk about your festivals over the summer. Yeah, feel free to just sort of push it between the two of you. How was it? What was the main difference between the women and the men playing, would you say?
I thought from my time watching both the boys play and the women's festivals that everybody at the women's were incredibly polite and apologetic. So if you ran somebody out or dropped a catch or something, you were sort of apologising to your own team or apologising for getting the other side out. And it actually was really good fun.
And the men were more just like as soon as they were out.
Oh, absolutely.
Way!
Very nice attitude, yeah, very, much less sportsmanlike.
It is funny that how I don't know if you do this when you're competing, Sally, but we would clap in netball after the opposition scores, and it was only when I played mixed netball that one of the boys on my team was like, "Why are you clapping when the opposition scores?" And I just had this moment where I was like, "I don't know." Actually, it just seems to be ingrained in us.
There's a lot of clapping in cricket, isn't there? You clap when people get 50s and 100s.
Yeah.
And I never understand in cricket why you clap when people go out to bat, because they haven't done anything yet. Yes, clap them off if they've made a good score, that's fine, I'm happy with that. But yeah, whether it's men or women, you still get clapped when you go out and you think,
It's all
and
very
I was
polite.
like, don't clap me, I haven't done anything yet.
Do you have any other of those funny little traditions in cricket, like well-to-do traditions?
Oh, there's lots of traditions in cricket. where the umpire stands on one leg. That's
Oh.
is that 111,
Oh, I don't know.
222, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know we did have a Cronkborn training session to try and learn the gestures, and it looked like we were trying to land an aircraft or all sorts of things we hadn't seen before.
Well, in the festivals, I played in the occasional one if a team was short, or and I often umpire. So I'd umpire, and sometimes I'd signal, and they'd go, "What you saying? What you signalling for, Sally?" I was like, "Well, it was a no ball. That was all." Yeah. So the people, even though any signal, they didn't know what it was for, so they just carried on. Yeah.
Do you get many female officials in professional cricket?
There is a few. Yeah. I've not seen any female professionals umpiring in the men's game, but if you watch ICC women's competitions, the vast majority are female now, I think. So there's more, yeah.
Even at club level as well, there's a lot more involvement now, isn't there? We've got several of the club managers are women, and lots of scoring going on.
Yeah, a
This
large
is,
amount of the
Yeah.
scorers are women, and
Yeah.
like I say, there's there's been a number of women running the boys at mixed teams, which has been great.
Awesome.
Because it shouldn't matter, should it?
No, it shouldn't. not at
Particularly
all.
if you're struggling for someone to run the team, you just take anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you touched on funding, what is funding like on the island for women's cricket?
Well, cricket in general is well funded through the ICC, so obviously we have to achieve a number of objectives. Let's say the ICC are increasing their funding based on your provision for women's cricket. So if the number of teams that you offer, the competitions, the offering of the softball festivals, the number of players, all impacts on the amount of funding you get. So your funding increases on your activity, alongside obviously facilities and coaches and umpires. But let's say the funding is increasing in terms of the amount of provision for the women's game. So, but that's not the reason why we started to. We'd built a good base with the men and the boys' game. The next stage was to grow the women and the girls' game, because it's a very athletic island, and there's no reason why girls wouldn't want to play cricket, because it's very sporty and
It's a fun game. Do you know kind of numbers in terms of the amount of teams we have on the island? So with the girls basketball and girls rugby, there's literally one team. So they have to play in the men's league. They have no other
there are
teams
no
to play against.
set teams as yet. That's the next stage really. So next summer, but going back, there's no set teams. But in the women's festivals, Castletown entered a team every week. Ramsey entered a team every week. There was a Finchhill team. There was a Cronkboard team. So the women's team, they're starting to grow groups of women and girls that want to play. It probably next year we'll continue with the softball festivals, but look to have some hardball festivals as well for those that want to move into hardball. And I'm sure that we'll certainly be able to have, I would have thought, 2 or 3 women girls teams that will play.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've got a lot of interest in terms of fun teams and whatnot, and then I'm assuming over the next year you just kind of want to cement that.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll go off in different directions. So some women will want to play in the continue to play in the softball festivals, and others will want to start to move towards hardball and a little bit more competitive, and either is absolutely fine, and we'll always cater for both. But the festivals have been brilliant this year to build a base, and then you can go off in the different pathways depending on what you want from the game.
Have you ever had, Maya, because you come across like such an angry person, have you ever had any moments of rage during a game where you've been so annoyed that I don't know if people like bash the cricket bat on the floor? Have you ever done that yourself?
I've definitely seen some boys do it, because I think quite a lot of them are quite competitive, and they're quite angry if they get out. I definitely see a lot of people.
But you personally are pretty chilled.
Yeah, because about the batting, I'm happy with what I get.
Yeah, so going back to you say that you're a bowler, and is bowling your favourite part of playing cricket?
Yeah, probably, because I just feel like it's a bit, not say easier, but just easier for me.
Comes more naturally to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any moments where you've just had a bad bowling day and you've had to really sort of middle of the game mentally sort yourself out to try and get your bowling back on form?
Yeah, sometimes I'll just like do a couple bad balls, and then I'll get taken off to the bowling and like have a moment, then go back on.
And what do you do in that moment? Because it can be very easy to psych yourself out when the game's not going your way. So what did you do to sort of turn your game around?
Just kind of throw a couple balls in the nets and then just kind of got myself into how I should be doing it.
Very good. Sally, any moments of rage?
No, those people that know me well, I am quite a laid back, it's similar to mine really, a laid back person really. So not so much rage from me, but one of my funniest moments, which involved a lot of rage from one of my old friends. I was the captain of Derbyshire under-17s. I was bowling, and the ball got whacked out to the boundary. She dropped it, which was very unusual because she was our best fielder. That's why she was out there. And then the next ball, the exact same thing happened again, and she dropped it again. And I thought, oh no, she's going to implode because she was quite an angry person. She threw a Derbyshire cap down and proceeded to stamp on it for about 3-4 minutes. And the umpire said to me, because I was the captain, in theory, he said, are you going to go and talk to her? And I was like, no. I'm just going to leave her. Just give me the ball and I'll just bowl and leave her out there because, she frightened me and I was on the same team as her. That was the most rage I've seen. I've seen numerous, and they tended to be men. Yet women tend to take it better if they're out. They tend to just accept it more, I
I
think.
think with the women's festivals, though, people were quietly competitive.
Very competitive,
yeah. It's all that pent-up frustration from having to watch the boys for quite so much of the summer.
Yeah.
But actually, they loved supporting it as well, didn't they? There were lots of husbands and sons there for each
Good.
other.
I was going to
We had
say,
some big crowds, yeah.
yeah, do you get a lot of men watching the women's game?
Well, I thought I'd get my own back by making them come and watch me for a change, and actually they loved it, which was really frustrating. But shouted lots of unhelpful tips. weren't they?
What sort of things did they shout?
Just slightly patronising observations
Like what? Can you remember any?
about throwing yourself into the fielding a bit more.
Just do better.
Yes.
Thanks for that advice.
In terms of cricket at uni, something for Maya to look forward to. Does the cricket community have traditions of doing a dirty pint, like horrible things if you get player of the match?
Well, I think they're officially banned now, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, the initiations are banned anyway.
Right, what?
There's a lot of trouble, wasn't there, at is it Durham or Newcastle University? Oh, but obviously they weren't banned when I was at university, 'cause that was a while ago. But I've never drank. I've always been the driver. And when I was at university, I lived in Derby and drove to Loughborough, so I went to Loughborough University. So yes, there was, but not that I ever partaken. But yeah.
Can you give us an insight, if you can remember, what you had to do during the initiation? Because when I was at uni, they basically said, oh, you have to do this, this and this. And I did a master's the other year, and it was really nice going back, being a bit older and a lot more confident and self-assured. And they were like, oh, you're first year, so you have to do this. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to.
No, I was very much like that. I said, no, I've never drank, so if I was to drink one pint, that would send me over the edge. But I think it was just various drinking games.
Lots of chanting.
Yeah. At Derbyshire, we
chanting,
had new players into the Derbyshire side to sing a song. Which was entertaining, yeah, because you got like nursery rhymes to Rhian to all sorts of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was some really good ones actually. Mine was the nursery rhyme, was rubbish.
Oh. And finally, I say finally, but I always end up thinking of something else. But we'll say finally for now. What would you say is your favourite thing about cricket?
I just love how it's it's just like a good sport.
You said to me earlier that it's a fantastic sport because you've got the support of being part of a team, but actually you've got plenty of opportunities to shine as an individual as well.
That's excellent. Yeah. Helen, what about you?
I love it. I think it helps with the children's fitness. I think it helps with discipline. It's quite a commitment really, isn't it, in terms of training through the year. I think it's improved massively in the last couple of years in terms of keeping the training going through the winter as well, which is really helpful. Gives them something to focus on through the year.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah, sorry, just quickly, how often do you train in the winter, and do you train inside or outside?
Yeah, so the Isle of Man squads have started training already, and they'll train up until Christmas once a week at King William's College, and then it will proceed to 2 times a week, so on a Saturday and then at the NSC and in the week at King William's College. The EPP also train, which is our programme between squads, a national team, and they train 4 times a week. So
what's the big competition that you would be aiming for?
World Cup qualifiers.
Right.
So Europe World Cup qualifiers. So next year our boys under 19, well under 17s that will be under 19 by the time the competition comes around, and the national team will be taking part in their World Cup qualifiers.
And that's where you're aiming
That's
for
the
with
equivalent for the women and the girls, yeah. So that will be our aim.
And Sally, what's your favourite thing about cricket?
Well, the reason that got me started was the family social side of it. So you know, I loved playing. Similar to Maya, I was a bowler and I loved bowling, but the family side that you can, you know, after the game you just didn't go home straight away because you stayed around the bar and you played games outside. And I think I started going to the cricket club when I was just shortly after I was born, I think, and spend the weekend there. So I think that's what got me hooked. And then obviously as I started to get better, I loved the challenge of it. And then like Maya, I like the individual challenges, but also being part of a team.
Yeah, you got a perfect balance there. And it's interesting how every single person that I've spoken to from every different sport has said it's the sense of not feeling alone, you know, when you're in a team, how much that impacts your life outside of just playing the sport, which I think is really nice.
That's helped you even with the transition to secondary school, hasn't it? Because cricket's such a big community that Maya's actually known people from different clubs and different age groups, and that's really helped.
And you can
hasn't
always
it?
like say hi to them
Yeah.
if you pass them in the corridor. It's nice.
Yeah.
If people want to get involved in cricket on the island, where would you tell them to go? And this is talking about both wanting to take it quite seriously and compete and aim for a spot on the national squad, or just wanting to do it sort of for fun or to meet some new people.
Well, there's our website, that Isle of Man Cricket website, or Facebook at Isle of Man Cricket, so you can get information from there. If you wanted to just have a go and try cricket for the first time, then I would recommend the softball festivals. We'll also be running some training and some softball fixtures over the winter, and it will be to contact the email on the website, and to start playing. Clubs, girls are very welcome at the clubs now, and they can play alongside the boys. It will be also running some girls fixtures over the summer as well. So
How many comps do you have? Like, do you go away to compete quite a lot?
none of the girls' squads have gone yet, but hopefully we'll do in the future.
That's the aim, sorry.
Yeah, the boys go to the Bromsgrove Festival and have been going there for
And there's
4
no
years.
mixed festivals that...
No, we've had girls play in the Bromsgrove Festival, which is traditionally a boys' festival. There are girls' festivals as well. So once we feel that we've the correct standard you want to challenge your opposition and to perform well, then we'll go and enter festivals like the boys do, and just enter the under 11 or under 13 girls' festivals or under 15. So that'll be the plan.
Maya, what do you want for your future career in cricket?
I want to be able to get into a higher standard of cricket. I mean, I'm quite high at the moment, but just try to get into bigger teams and more known teams.
I don't like cricket. Oh no. I love it. Dreadlock holiday. I don't like reggae. Oh no. I love it. Dreadlock holiday.